Hey guys, Cooper here. Best beard in Yu-Gi-Oh! I wanted to make a deck using the cards from the Albaz Structure Deck in Master Duel. Now, before we get started, I have to warn you, some of the cards, in fact, most of the cards that came out of the Albaz Structure Deck are not in Master Duel yet. So, the list I have for Master Duel is not going to reflect the Albaz Structure Deck experience. However, I'm going to try to make up for that. Now, again, before we get started, if you are an old school player who is looking for a way to get back into the game, this is where you want to be. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Theme song, okay. So this is the deck. We have one copy of Comedy and one copy of Tragedy. I was running more of each, but they get clunky, so I just wanted one. 3 Maxx C, 3 Ash Blossom. You drop one of these, and you're probably going to win. At least in most cases. 1 copy of Armageddon Knight. He's really good for dumping a Comedy or a Tragedy. 3 copies of Ahrima. 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz, because of course this is an Albaz deck. 2 copies of Aluber. Probably could do 3 though. 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. 1 copy of Darkest Diabolos. This guy goes with Lair of Darkness. 1 copy of Dogmatika Fleurdelis. This was out of the structure deck. That's probably the only reason I'm running this. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not bad. It's actually a good card. Solid investment. But that's the only reason I'm running it. You could probably do something else instead of this. Same with Artifact Scythe. I don't even know if I ever actually got a playoff with Artifact Scythe. 2 copies of Dramaturge, 1 copy of Harpie's Feather Duster, Monster Reborn, 2 Allure of Darkness, 1 Lightning Storm, 2 Branded in White, 3 Lair of Darkness, 2 Super Polys, 1 Call by the Grave, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and 2 Warning Point. But for the extra deck, we have Mudragon of the Swamp. This is a good Super Poly target, and 2 Starving Venom Fusion Dragons. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon comes up a lot because of Lair of Darkness. Mudragon comes up whenever you don't have Lair of Darkness. It's just a way to wipe away a couple of your opponent's monsters. You have to get rid of 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. Shadows. You'll see that a lot in Shadows. Anyway, we got the Titaniklad. Anyway, we have the Titaniklad the Ash Dragon, Brigrand the Glory Dragon. We have 2 of those. 2 Sprind the Irondash Dragon, 1 Albion, 1 Despian Quaeritis, that guy. 1 Despian, that guy, whose name I cannot pronounce. 1 Predaplant Triphyoverutum, Triffy. 1 Predaplant Triffy. 1 Despian Prosket. Is Yu-Gi-Oh! Still in English? Anyway. The first Dark Lord. There's only one reason this is in here, and that's because if you have Lair of Darkness and your opponents are running Drytron and that ridiculous fairy deck, you can just smash 3 of them together against your opponent's will with a Super Poly, make a 4,000 point beater. It's yet to come up, but it could, and I really want it to. And 1 Predaplant Verde Anaconda. Really good with fusions. The rest of the extra deck is fusions. This is what I'm running. I try to keep it a little more, a little easier to understand for newer players or players getting back into the game, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a complicated game. And if you can just like peel it back to this simplistic stage, then it can be a lot of fun. Even if your opponent is playing solitaire, you can interrupt them with some of these cards, and that's probably the best way to get back into it, in my opinion. That's what I've been doing anyway, and I've been learning the meta slowly but surely. Okay. So Okay, so I went first, and my only move was just to set infinite impermanence. Now, they're going to try to... okay, at this point, it's pretty obvious we're playing against a Blue Eyes deck. I talked about Maxx C earlier. Maxx C is going to make sure that whenever they special summon a monster, we draw a card. Now, Maxx C did not work out so well, but at the same time it did. You see, Maxx C probably had stopped him from going off on his turn. Even if we don't get to draw from it, they don't abuse their turn. Does that make sense? Okay. So we draw, we get Lightning Storm. This guy. Let's just pause it real quick. This guy. I love this guy. Ahrima, the Wicked Warden. So you can discard him from your hand to search up the field spell Lair of Darkness. That's like one of my favorite cards. I try to squeeze that into almost any deck I build. Ahrima's really good for that. So his other ability is you can tribute a monster and you draw a card. Or if you tribute someone that's not Ahrima, you can search your deck for a monster with 2,000 or more defense. Let's continue. So we got the White Stone of Ancients. I use Ahrima here. I tribute him, draw a card. We get Ash Blossom. That was lucky. So Ash Blossom is going to counter White Stone of Ancients. And all is well. Now, you can see we're still sitting on this infinite impermanence. Danger. This is a danger jackalope. Oh, they're going off. This guy. Crystron Halki Fibrax. So what this guy's going to do is he's going to special summon a level 3 or lower tuner monster from his deck and continue his plays from there. So in order to counter that, I just infinite impermanence. It negates the effect, and any spell cards placed in, spell or trap, placed in this column right here will be negated for the rest of the turn. We get hit for 15, not a big deal. So he gets to special summon Blue Eyes. Also not a big deal. Okay, so we just drew Despian Tragedy. The Despian cards are cards that go really well with Albaz. You'll see in a minute. Or maybe not, I can't remember. No, we discard Tragedy with Albaz's effect. You see Albaz, whenever he's summoned, you discard a card, and then you fusion summon a monster using Albaz and one of your opponent's monsters. One or more, I think. As long as you use Albaz and only your opponent's monsters after that. So, I just use the Albaz to fusion summon with his Blue Eyes to make Albion the Branded Dragon. This card comes with the structure deck. You'll have one of these. So I made sure to include it in this game. So what he does is he allows us to fusion summon using monsters from our graveyard, which I use Albaz and the Despian Tragedy here. And what they're going to make is the Despian... What? Quaeritis, this guy. Despian, this guy. This guy's great. Okay, so because we use Despian Tragedy, it lets us search for another Despian monster. I chose Despian Comedy. What this does is you can discard it from your hand in order to protect one of your Despian monsters. Now I'm using this guy's effect. He makes all monsters on the field that aren't level 8 fusions 0 attack. He makes them all have 0 attack. So I'm going to use Branded Bond to bring Albaz back. I might have jumped the gun on this one. I'm not really sure. But he got him a Formula Synchron. That just lets him draw a card. And he's not going to take a hefty amount of damage here. Well, he's going to take 5,000, but he's not going to take 6,800 like he would have. So now it's his turn. Let's see what he's got. That is Chaos Dragon Levineer. That card also comes in the structure deck. Good card, good card. So I use this guy before he goes away to make Levanier's attack 0. That was a bit of a mistake because Levanier can't attack this turn anyway. And I made Fallen of Albaz's attack 0. It didn't cost me anything in the long run, but it's there. Now with Monster Reborn, we can bring back the Despian that guy, but he's got Called by the Grave. Also comes in this structure deck. Called by the Grave is such a good card. It banishes a monster from a graveyard and negates that monster's effects for the rest of the turn. So you can banish another copy of someone's card that you want to negate, or you can just banish someone's card from the graveyard. It works really well against hand traps, like Ash Blossom or Maxx C. That was a White Stone of Legend. Just searches a blue eyes whenever it's destroyed. So now I want to get Predaplant, Verte, Anaconda. This card, last time I looked into it, was expensive, and here's why. You can pay 2,000 life points to send a fusion card from your deck to the graveyard and activate its effect. I chose Super Polymerization. This is going to fuse 2 dark monsters together on the field, including his, to make Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. Also, what I could have made here, could have also made Starving Venom Fusion Dragon here. So either way it would have worked. I picked him because he's got more attack points. That's literally it. 500 more. And that's enough to kill him. And that's the game. He gave up after that. Okay, so we're off to a pretty good start. We have an Ash, a Comedy, an Ahrima, and an Albaz, and a Allure of Darkness. Amazing hand. Now he's playing Drytrons. So I'm going to try to interrupt that with Ash Blossom. But he's got the Herald of Orange Light. Herald of Orange Light, you have to negate... You can negate a card by discarding a fairy. He discarded another copy of Herald of Orange Light. So we don't get the Ash. So he's going to summon a Link Rebo. Use that guy's effect in the grave to ditch Cyber Angel Benton. And then play this old Diviner of the Herald. This is a key card. If you can ever negate an effect with a Drytron player, negate this card's effect. It's key. It dumps this card into the graveyard, which lets him search a ritual monster or a ritual spell, which is important for Drytron players. He gets Natasha, and then there's the ritual spell. Plays it. Link off. Now, this card right here, this IP Masquerena, it's going to allow him to link summon on my turn. So I definitely want to play in a way that gets around this, essentially. I have Albaz. I have a monster in the extra deck. I was going to use Fallen of Albaz to summon either Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, which I highly recommend you pick up. Yeah, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Or if he special summons something this turn, we could play Sprind the Irondash Dragon, which you also get in the structure deck. It just takes a Fallen of Albaz and one effect monster special summon this turn. So if he link summons with this, we can make this guy. If not, we just make Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Not a big deal, either way. So he opted to activate Masquerena's effect, which means he's going to link summon something. And then this is Chain Link 2. Chain Link 1 is Fallen of Albaz. So once he's done with this, Fallen of Albaz resolves. So regardless, we get a monster here, and he's out of resources. He didn't even bother summoning anything because he realized what he did. Okay, let's look at one more. So this hand is not the best, but Allure of Darkness and Despian Tragedy, that's a really good combo. Whenever Despian Tragedy is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand. So you send it with Allure of Darkness, and you get the effect, turning Allure of Darkness into a +2. So we draw the Ash, we're going to play Allure of Darkness, send Despian Tragedy, activate Despian Tragedy, get one more card, which we're going to use Aluber. And then that will search us branded and wide. Now we're going to use Branded Opening. I stopped using this card. It just doesn't seem to do enough. Here is the field spell. This is Lair of Darkness. This card is one of my favorites, and I can't even explain why. It's probably not as good as I let on. So, Lair of Darkness turns all monsters on the field into darks, which is really good for your super polymerization plays, or well, that's actually about it. Super polymerization. It's so good for this card. Now, that being said, it also kind of affects your opponent's plays. Some cards rely on, like some cards in the extra deck, rely on your opponent having certain attributes of monsters. And if they're all dark, it might mess them up a little bit. It doesn't come up often, but it does come up sometimes. So now we have Lair of Darkness, Dramaturge, the Dramaturge of Despia. Whew! This guy. We have him and Aluber. Now I'm going to attack. It's a Treeborn Frog. Now we're going to Super Poly. This is during the battle phase. You see, Super Poly is a quick play spell. Now, this is why Dramaturge is so good. Because I used him as part of the fusion, he comes back to the field. And we used him to create a Despian this guy. So, during this battle phase, we attacked with Aluber, and then we super polyed to make Dramaturge and Despian this guy. Did a lot of damage that turn. Also, another thing with Lair of Darkness, if you tribute monsters, you get a token at the end of the turn. Either player does. Oh, and one more thing. If your opponent, if you need to tribute a monster to activate an effect, you can tribute one of your opponent's dark monsters. That's once per turn. Lair of Darkness also makes them all dark. It's great. Love that card. So he's going to try to destroy our Lair of Darkness. I want to protect it because Lair of Darkness, it's a good card. I like it a lot. That might not have even been the right play, but I had to. Now remember before, this guy's effect makes all monsters on the field who aren't level 8 fusion monsters, it drops their attack to 0. So I'm going to use that, make his attack 0. He's at 2,500 life points, attack for game. These were all in platinum, by the way. If any of you have any suggestions as to how I can make this better and more accessible to new players, please let me know in the comments below. If this has helped you any at all, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Lets me know I'm doing a good job, or at least a decent job. And until next time, this is Cooper, best beard in Yu-Gi-Oh! Bye!